up, live people?
How's everyone doing? Welcome to today's episode of Empire Builders MasterCast Live. It's our live stream for the week.
Our live stream for the week, and it's been a minute.
It has been. I feel like it's been forever since we've been here together. Right? It's
I
like
know. I had laryngitis.
you did. So,
Yeah.
guys, if you didn't tune in last week to my conversation with Karen, which by the way was amazing, Karen, thank you so much for being here with me.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
Honore
Thank you.
woke up. Yeah, she woke up that morning and sent me a message, dude. I literally have zero voice.
I could not make a sound for the
Uh,
whole day. For the whole day. Like I was texting my husband to tell him things because I could not. I was like,
that's tough.
it was awful. Enjoyable for many people, I'm sure.
I was getting ready to ask Callie, has Byron been complaining or was he okay?
You know what? He's always delightful. So he's like, no, I like talking to you. And we were driving that day, the whole day for hours and hours and hours. And I couldn't talk to him. And I was doing some of the driving. So I couldn't text him while I was driving. So I was just doing sign language, sounds like, cat. I don't know. Like, hi, Wayne. Where are you now? Where in the world are you?
He's in Egypt.
Oh, you're back in Egypt. Oh, is that what
Yeah.
the camels? Okay.
Camels.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to do a master class live in Egypt.
Don't give him ideas. He
Okay.
will he will find a way to get us to
You know
Egypt.
what? I would have to fly private, not C-14 or whatever those awful military transport planes are. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I don't miss a C5. That was a,
Is that
a
what it
loud
is? Those look
that's
awful.
one of them, yeah. It was well, it's loud. It's very loud.
Yeah.
Very loud.
You have to
So
wear earplugs and then you have to
yeah.
yell. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I will say this: I did fly one time in a C5 from Morón, Spain, which is like in the not on the coast, let's put it that way. And we flew all the way across the Atlantic to Dover, and I slept the entire flight. I literally woke up 45 minutes before Dover.
Do you get to lay down or are you really strapped in like in the upright position, which is miserable for sleeping?
Yeah, we're in these like they have these seats that they can fill the cargo bay with. Um, and and it was actually comfortable for me. I mean, my context at the time was probably a little skewed because I'd been living on like chairs in Air Force Base like lobbies for 4 days before that happened. Um, but once we got to the plane, I was out. It was like motion, already exhausted, all the noise, put on headphones, you're just like
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah. That's how I used to travel. I would just get on a plane and crash. Now I get on a plane and write.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was actually one of my criteria when I was buying my MacBook this week. Caleb's like, "Oh, look at the sizes, and you got the 16, and they got the 14, and if you get the Pro." And I said, "Man, it's a 14. Which one of these I'm going to be able to get on a plane and comfortably use?" And he just started
14.
laughing.
A 14.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
have the
got.
15. I have the 15 and it's just too big enough that I have to turn it sideways and put it in my bag. It's a little,
A little
it's
bit.
workable. I made it work.
There
I
you go.
suffered through. I suffered through with my 15-inch MacBook on my flight.
So, what have you been reading lately? What's been going on?
So I've taken a break from nonfiction because I had bought, so with being sick, I couldn't read because I would fall asleep, headache, all the things, and I couldn't talk. So I had bought a long time ago the audiobooks that go with the movie Red Sparrow.
Hmm. Is that like a military thriller kind
It's
of?
a Russian American spy thriller
Okay.
trilogy. So I think the first audiobook was 17 hours.
Wow.
And the movie is excellent. I thought the movie was very well done. But then I like the books, obviously. All the books are always better, which is so cliche, but it's cliche because it's true. And so I listened to Red Sparrow, and now I'm listening to the second book in the series, which I was delighted to see is 20 hours.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then there's a third book. And I'm
Wow.
thinking to myself, why have I only listened to nonfiction books? Why have I not ever gotten into listening to fiction? Because
Hmm.
I love a true crime podcast, which is basically not
Sure.
fiction, but it's story based. And so I
Right.
love those. I listened to Think Twice, which was the podcast about Michael Jackson, which I thought was fascinating. So anyway, that's
Oh,
what I just finished Red Sparrow and I started the next book. I couldn't even tell you what it is, but it's the second book in the series, and it was written by a former CIA guy.
that's right.
And so it's so good. So in the middle of reading the book, I watched the movie because I was trying to see what they did differently with the movie versus the book.
Wait, you did that mid read?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Okay.
Um, it was easier to watch a movie than to listen to a book when I was hanging out with Byron. So I just put the movie
Right.
on, and but it was interesting to see how they kind of collapsed characters and did different things in the movie. Book is still better. Book is, I mean, it's just so good. And then the book is over, the movie's over, and you're like, well, hit me again, hit me again, hit me again. So
Is it a series?
it's three in a series. There's no there. They haven't made the second movie. I went in search of like, where's the second movie? It's Jennifer Lawrence is the main character. So I
Hmm.
thought for sure they would. It doesn't seem to have been a big box office smash. So I
Right.
don't think that it made like the hundreds of millions of dollars that they wanted. I think it made 150 million or something. And so maybe they broke even with all those big time actors in there. It was Jeremy Irons and Jennifer Lawrence and so on and so forth. So anyway, I'm hoping they make the other movies, but also I'm just really happy to have 40 more hours of audiobook to listen to.
Oh my gosh.
Right? It just makes me so happy.
It's such a
And
dilemma.
can I go to the post office today? Like, right? Oh, I'll just sweep and mop the floors again for the third time this week because I can, right? So I'm a big nerd like that. What are you reading, Lucas?
Well, I mean, before I tell you
I'm
what I
scared.
was listening to and reading, but you brought up something that's a dilemma for me when I buy an audiobook, which by the way is going to be, we're going to talk a bit about like how
Yeah,
audiobooks can work with you and
yeah,
everything, but obviously we're also talking about listening to audiobooks is
yeah.
something that you and I do routinely
All the time.
all the time. And when I go to buy an audiobook, I've found myself recently paying more attention to the length of the audiobook. I'm looking for the longer listens.
Mm,
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm like, wow, this could be, because I had a really long listen. It was an 18-hour book.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, duh, I don't know if I want to go for all that, But then when I was done, I was like,
It's
wow,
delicious. It's
it,
delicious. It's
it
like a
is.
treat that never ends.
And the engineer in me is like, wow, I really extracted a lot of value out of that single credit on Audible.
Also that. Also, right, a credit is a credit is a credit.
Yeah.
But I just get the two credits. I just routinely get two new credits, and I would be ashamed to say I probably have 400 audiobooks,
Hmm.
and half of them I haven't listened to yet, and I still get, it's like every day I wake up and promise myself I'm not going to buy a book today, and every day I break my promise and buy a book. Or someone
Well,
sends me one. If I make it through the day and then I go to the mailbox, someone sent me a book as a gift.
ah,
It's a good problem.
well, as far as like, um, so like you, I do both fiction and nonfiction kind of at the same time. I know there's some people out there that are like, I can't read more than one book at a time, whatever. Maybe one book in like each type. Right? Like I'm one of those
Yeah,
people. It's like
yeah.
I'm reading a nonfiction book, I'm reading a fiction book,
I'm
sometimes
listening
two
to one
fictions.
audiobook. I'm reading one
Correct.
paperback. I don't read fiction at the same time, but I read multiple nonfictions
Right,
daily.
right.
Yeah.
So the last audiobook I listened to that's nonfiction is, and I'm still not finished with it. I have an hour left, so don't tell Mike McAllowitz, but Profit First.
Yeah, that's a great book.
Yep. So that's my nonfiction, and I actually listened to that on the way back from StokerCon. I think it was, I don't know, August or something,
Mhm.
and was like, okay, this one's gonna take a couple of like repeats of the chapters to really like absorb all the stuff because
You'll
he
like
is just
you'll like The
letting me.
Pumpkin Plant, which is another one of his great books.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And then on the fiction side, I was listening to Strange Weather, which is a Joe Hill book. And it's a more recent release from Joe Hill. That's one of Stephen King's sons. And he,
Oh,
Yeah, and this is a collection of like 4 short stories. I think it's 4, might be 5. I'm pretty sure it's 4, and they were really good. So, Strange Weather was excellent.
Okay.
But that was kind of the common theme in each of
Does
the
he write
stories.
horror too?
He does, and
Hmm.
he doesn't write strict horror, just like Stephen King doesn't, right? Like maybe earlier in Stephen King's career, he was like really pounding the horror button, but now he kind of explores, you
Okay.
know. Well, I say now, in the last 30 years, he's had the freedom because of his success to kind of write what he wants to write, not have to worry about being genre specific.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Joe Hill does a bit of that, but if you're going to look for him in a bookstore, you're either going to probably find him in horror or thriller
Okay.
or both.
I like a thriller, but I'm not, horror is my line.
Well, I can see why that is because I write in horror, so there's some horror that's like
Yeah.
just straight up horror.
Yes. I'm trying to reconcile that you write horror and you're such a nice person. Like,
Well, some of it, I guess mine's more gothic, I could say, which just
I don't
gets
know what
tucked.
that means. I'm just trying to.
If you're haunted by something from the past,
Oh,
then it very much likely has gothic themes in it. So,
oh, okay.
yes, sometimes that's just really suspenseful stuff. Like every haunted house story you've ever read has probably got
Oh, I see. Okay.
predominantly gothic themes.
I don't like that idea though. I have to say, I'm okay with the thriller. I'm loving the spy thriller,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I know they're going to, if you're a Russian spy who's working for the US government, they are going to torture you to the ground. It is not a good day for you.
yeah. They're pretty
Um,
tough on
I
people.
don't think we do that. I don't think we do that in this country, at least not that I know of. I'm sure there's a bit of like
Probably
off.
not in the country.
Yeah, I'm going to say that there might be something, some black site somewhere where it's like, oh, I will take those fingernails today. Yes, with my pliers, but
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's what I've been listening to, and then reading wise, and this is definitely horror. I've been reading Robert Ottone. He wrote a book called "The Vile Thing We Created," and it's a really cool concept and a really cool story. But Robert is uh, kind of a
you're going to
unique,
tell me he's like a librarian or like a Sunday school teacher, right?
close middle school.
Oh, good. Yes, our children are safe. That's wonderful.
Yeah, he writes middle school, and but he also was a journalist in New York City,
Oh, well, there you go. There's the horror.
and he was one of the guys who tracked the Long Island killer case, the Lisk.
Oh,
Yeah. So as all that kind of unpacked this summer, he was like, being able to release information about the case that some of the
interesting.
journalists knew and that the detectives knew, but they weren't talking about. So, because they didn't have an arrest yet made. So,
Interesting.
yeah. So, anyways, that's kind of been what's been on my reading list. But the whole topic of audiobooks and the whole conversation about audiobooks, I've actually had my eyes opened a bit on both the fiction and nonfiction side recently, just in the last couple of weeks with conversations with you, conversations with Zach, and a couple of other people about how impactful audiobooks have been on them and their careers as authors. And I mean, of course,
Yeah.
I've assumed that, but much like uh, print and ebook, it's another format for us to deliver our books in.
Well, and audiobooks are the way, and some people will debate whether you read an audiobook or not, whether
Right.
it counts as reading, and of course, I think it counts as reading.
Sure.
Um, however, audiobooks are a delivery method that allows people to do something else while they're reading, while they're
Right.
listening, and I think that that's wonderful because one, I like it for myself,
Hmm.
but having an audiobook allows people who have difficulty reading, so if they have some sort of a condition like dyslexia or something like that, um, they can listen to the book instead of reading it, which allows people who otherwise would say, well, it's just too hard to read. It's too difficult for me to read. It feels like work. Even if it's pleasure, it's work
Mm.
because it's a challenge. They can listen to the book instead. It also allows you to do something else, or the reader to do something else, not just sit and read. Now, when I was sick, I was just laying and reading or sitting and reading, which was fine. I tend to like to do something that I don't have to really think about. So
Right.
cleaning, driving, cleaning,
More cleaning.
more cleaning, or working out, right? It's the thing that
Sure.
when I can get into a book, then I don't want the workout to end. I'm sad when the workout's over. Even if I was dreading the workout, if I can get into a book right away, then I'm excited to keep going because I can listen as long as I'm on the treadmill or I'm working out, right? So
Hmm.
I think it's the fastest growing part of publishing, having an audiobook.
Right.
And so I have as many audiobooks for my books as I can possibly have for that reason.
Now you've worked with a couple of different narrators. You've worked with different
Oh,
publishing methods for your audiobooks. You
yeah,
recently, and huge
thank
congratulations,
you.
you recently um, have published with Podium.
Yes, Podium Audio is the I can't use the phrase top shelf anymore because I learned that that doesn't mean the same thing in the UK that it does in the US. So the like um they're the best. They've got the reputation for the best, and they produce audio books. They were the company that produced the audiobook for The Martian. So for about 9 months, The Martian was
Wow.
only available in audiobook while it had been sold from Andy Weir to traditional publishing, and they were publishing the book. The only way to read the book was to get it on audio and to listen to it.
Wow.
So that's the same company that does that. And when I was at an event 10 years ago with Podium as a guest of Podium, one of Podium's authors, it was on my wish list. Someday I want to be a
Nice.
Podium author. And it was on my wish list. And so it came true this year. So the best-selling book formula came out in August. And Write Your First Nonfiction Book comes out October the 10th. It's now available for pre-order only and exclusively on Audible through Podium, which I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
I have used narrators. I've used two different narrators in the past, a female narrator and a male narrator, mostly a male narrator for my books and for the Miracle Morning books, Rob Actis. He's a phenomenal voiceover talent. And then I have done one book of my own, and I found it to be a particularly exhausting process.
A lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I was so tired. We booked the studio for 2 days. My husband, as part of all of his many talents, has an audio engineering degree. So he set up a studio for me. I went into the studio and I read for 5 straight hours and then went home and took a 5-hour nap and then got up and had dinner and then went to bed. It's a performance.
It's that much fun.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it's like anything, Lucas. And I've never given it the chance. I've not ever given the chance for my muscles to get used to it, to build up
Mm,
to it, if that makes sense.
right.
The first time you do anything, you're tired after. Like the
Sure.
first day back to work feels like an extra long, tiring day, but then very soon you get into the groove. I've never done that. I did one audiobook, 2 days, and I said never again. And I've kept that promise to myself. And now, because Podium has my two most recent books, hopefully I'll never, hopefully I'll never have to do it any other way. Um, so anyway, there are lots of different ways to do it. I think probably the thing we should talk about is why have an audiobook if you don't listen to audiobooks. And
Uh,
there was a time when I only read ebooks because it was so convenient with the invention of the Kindle and getting my first Kindle, getting an iPad, and having this ability to have all of
mm,
my books at my fingertips all the time, no matter where I was. I thought I only want to have ebooks. And so I was only publishing ebook versions of my books for a
oh,
period of time. And then someone asked me, the first of many someones, is this book available in print? No. Is this a book available in audiobook? No. And I tend to challenge my assumptions. Anytime I say I'm never going to do something or that doesn't work, I will circle back around to it later and go, maybe I should reconsider. Maybe I don't know everything. Obviously, I don't know everything. Maybe I don't know everything about this. Maybe my assumption is something I need to rethink.
mm,
And so I started to then look at how people preferred to read. How do you prefer to consume your content? So when I offer someone a book, I'll say, would you like a copy of this? Generally, it's because I have a physical copy. Would you like a copy of this? Would you like this copy, or would you prefer I send you a digital copy? Hey, about 50% of the time, because 50% of my books that are sold on Amazon, because you can look at the metrics, it'll say this percentage of books is ebooks, this percentage is paperback, this percentage is hardcover. And I'm
Right.
right at 50-50. 48,
Me too.
52, 50-50, 49, 51. It's like right there. Um, and so I thought, why am I giving up 50% of my sales by not having it available in print? And then I can say that 25% of my author earnings in total are audio.
So you're making a quarter of your
A quarter of,
earnings,
yeah,
not orders, but actual
yeah,
revenue
yeah.
off the
A quarter
books.
of
Yeah.
my revenue comes from audiobooks. And so when I think about the 80-20 rule, right? It's like, well, 80% of my sales come from 20% of my effort, but do I only want 80% of my income? No, I want 100%. So I'm going to see if I can get that extra 20%. That's the first thing. The second thing is, do I want to give up 25% of my overall income by not having that audio version? Of course not.
Right.
So there you go. That's the fun part. So I'm going to say hey to the Facebook user, the unidentified Facebook user, which at one time was me. There's Renee
I
and
think that,
Elizabeth. You're
yeah, I
probably
think,
Jen. Is it Jen or Karen?
yeah, I was going to say, I think it's Jen. But Jen, identify yourself if you're Jen.
Yeah. Please
And
identify
Elizabeth,
yourself.
yeah, and Elizabeth said hi. And
Hi,
like
Elizabeth.
Renee,
Yeah, all the good
um,
people.
real quick, because I know you have a quick answer for this. Wayne did ask a question. He
Oh,
asked if he may have missed this over past sessions, but what book or books helped you the best in writing a book? Now, I have a different answer than you do.
I was going to say, I have my answer. I bet you have your answer.
Your answer first.
Oh, what book or books helped me? Well, everyone has probably heard of On Writing by Stephen King. I think that's a standard. That is you want to be a writer, that's a book.
It's phenomenal.
That's a book that you want to read.
Mhm.
However, there are so many. So let me see. Um, let me see if you've heard of some of these. So my friend Becca Syme wrote a book series called Dear Writer, and the first I think in that series is Dear Writer, You Need to Quit.
I have that one.
Yep. So there's a whole series of them. I have not read them all yet. Chris Fox wrote a series, Right to Market. Um, I'm not remembering what those are. There's a book by Rachel Aaron, 2K to 10K. So going from 2,000 words a day to 10,000 words a day. Joanna Penn has a lot of books for writers on writing. And then I wrote some to fill in the gaps, right? I wrote the Prosperous Writer book series because there weren't books on mindset and writing. And so I have that 5-book series, but those weren't books that helped me. That was just mindset stuff that helped me. So
Right.
what's your answer, Lucas? Asking for a friend.
I first started my writing as a like wanting to be a professional, all right? Like knowing that it was going to
Yes.
most likely start out with
Yes.
nonfiction and it was going to be related to my business, and I didn't want to have to swing the bat 5 times and figure it out. I wanted to learn as much as I could from a pro right up front. And I found this crazy book called You Must Write a Book.
Hmm.
And this lady named Honore Corder had written it. And
Also crazy.
and then she had a course, and I ended up in that, and then the mastermind and all the things, right? So
Yeah.
my journey to figuring out how to write the book I wanted to write was almost more about how to write a professional nonfiction book the right
Mhm.
way. Oh, and by the way, self-publish it, because I knew if I could self-publish a book, then I could make a book good enough to traditionally publish if I wanted to go that route.
Yes.
And so I was like, all right, I'm just gonna focus on that. So that's where obviously You Must Write a Book came in for me. And then in the course of writing my book, I had the opportunity to read Best-Selling Book Formula. That was
Mm.
very good for me to read because I had just gone through the process of drafting my manuscript, and I read the best-selling book formula and used it as a checklist to basically make sure I'd done all the things right. I was like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And then on the fiction side, Stephen King's On Writing, and then Jay Thorne and Zach Bohannon, dear friends, they wrote the three-story method,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed for learning how to write fiction because it gave me a perspective about how to structure a fiction book in an engaging way. So yeah, those are kind of my
Awesome.
recommendations.
I will say this, Wayne, and thank you for asking that question. Um, you can get into analysis paralysis.
Oh yeah.
There, I remember talking to Kelkade, Kelkade. She is a very well-known epic fantasy writer. Uh, Her story is very interesting. She was a single mom, broke on her last, probably, I think she had no nickels. She didn't have a last nickel. And she wrote and published a book and sold $30,000 worth of books her first month, and then had to wait 60 days. So she went and borrowed money again. She told the story on stage at Writer Fest where she went to her family and said, I'm going to be getting $30,000 in like another month and a half, but I have to pay my rent today. Can you please help me? And borrowed money against future earnings. And she's a podium author. And so anyway, writes epic fantasy, does very, very well, multiple book deals, all of that kind of thing. Nevertheless, I remember talking to her and to just a couple of other people who I respect. And they said, Honore, you can tell a story, write the book. And so I will say that to people who are voracious readers, people who are experts, you already know what to write. So don't go, oh my gosh, now I have to read all of Chris Fox's books, all of Becca Syme's books, all of Stephen King's books, all right. Go, okay, I have to read all these books and then I'll be ready. It's like, no. Use those to validate what you're doing, but get in front of the computer. The only way to write is to actually write. The only way to, you can't edit a blank page, blah, 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 right? I can say all the things, but I do encourage you at some point just to say, okay, I'm going to sit down and write the story. I'm going to sit down and write the outline and write the words on the page, because you can read all the books. Oh, there's another one. The snowflake method is fantastic. That's a way to structure the story. So you can go, okay, I'm going to do the snowflake method and I'm going to learn Scrivener and I'm going to like identify the best font that I'm going to write in. I'm going to have to, light a vanilla scented candle. I can only write facing east at noontime on Tuesdays. Like you can really back yourself into a corner of like, I have to do all of these things before I'm ready to write. But ultimately you are a writer. So you need to write the book. We've gone a little off topic, but I think it was important to say.
No, I'm 100% with you because you can't get to the audiobook until you've gotten this far. Like you just can't. Right, you have to have a book.
You actually have a book to be voiced before you can get into the nitty gritty. So probably we should talk about how you get an audiobook done. What are the different options for that? Sure. So you can get a very inexpensive microphone set up to plug into your computer. If you have a sexy MacBook, you can plug it right in and record audio on GarageBand.
Yep.
Now, it is not as easy to publish an audiobook self-published as it is to publish an ebook or a paperback book, because they have quality standards, those folks over at the Audible and the iBooks, right? So they're gonna for sure kick it back if it doesn't meet their quality standards of a lot of background noise and those sorts of things. They're going to kick it back. So you're going to want to make sure that you meet their standard.
I was just looking for a link that I had. I'll share it with the group once I find it.
Oh, great. So you can record your own audiobook, and if you know how to trim audio and do all those sorts of things, which I most assuredly do not, you can publish your own audiobook. There are also services that will charge you $500 to $2,000 per finished hour to produce your audiobook. And then you can pursue audiobook publishers, of which Podium is the best and most well-known. to produce your book. So there are lots of options for it. When I did Stop Trying So Effing Hard, that was my book that I did myself. And I went into the studio with the help of my husband. And then I had one of his friends, who is a Grammy winning producer, produce the book for me. So I live under some kind of special star for that to have happened. Um, but got that produced and uploaded and published. And so that was the one that I did. If you self-publish your book, you can put it through Findaway Voices. So you can publish direct to Audible through acx.com. But you can also use a service like Findaway Voices, which is the kind of equivalent of draft to digital for self-publishing of books, ebooks and paperback books. So you publish it, you upload it through Findaway Voices, and then they distribute it everywhere audiobooks are sold. And so you can distribute it to libraries and Apple, iTunes, ACX, all of the audio places. And so it really just comes down to author preference. People will say, and I talked about this with the folks over at Podium a little bit, about how people will say, well, I want to voice my own book, but they don't have a nice voice. So you have to make sure you have a nice listening voice. Do people like listening to you? Because there are some people that just do not have nice voices to listen to. And if you are that person, then, have no ego when it comes to your audiobook. Be willing and happy to let someone do that work. That's their job. They will be pleasurable to listen to, because if you are not pleasurable to listen to, then people will return your book, or they won't buy your book. They'll listen to a sample and say, I can't listen to that voice. That voice is annoying.
Right.
It grates on me, whatever. And we know someone who has one of the best voices ever, John Stongi,
Yeah.
right? So, you want someone who has a voice for radio and, a voice for listening, and do that. So if you have that voice, or you can turn on that voice, then do that. If not, then maybe you want to use voice talent. And so sometimes Podium is like, we like your book, but we know that your book won't sell if it's in your voice, because, so they, all that kind of stuff. So nevertheless.
Yeah, they need control over that process as the publisher, for sure.
Yeah, Elizabeth said, I've read so many bad reviews of books that I've read that are all about the voice. Yes. And there are some people that I don't listen to I'll want the audiobook, and then I'll realize, oh, it's voiced by a voice actor that I don't like.
Yeah.
But the guy who does Red Sparrow, his voice is awesome. And then I noticed, here's what's interesting, is I did a search on him, and he did the new book by Walter Isaacson on Elon Musk, which is on my to read list. So not only did I want to read about Elon Musk, just from a,
Sure.
what makes people tick kind of a perspective, and also Walter Isaacson writes really good biographies. Then when I heard that this voice guy that I've been listening to for 20 hours, I'm like, yes, I get to listen to him. This is fantastic. And my husband has that voice. My husband, when he writes his book, I will encourage him to voice his own book, because he's got a Southern voice that to me sounds like melted caramel. Right?
Well, I won't describe his voice to him like that when I see him next.
That would be weird. Don't make it weird, Lucas.
There's only one way to make that happen, though. I got to get really close. There's nowhere to run, Byron.
Sounds like melted caramel, Byron.
Yes. You'd be like, hey, man, thanks, but you got to be so close when you tell me that.
Yes.
Now, that's great. And I agree with you. I think and there's another dynamic to the voice part, right? So I actually listened to an autobiography of somebody who is famous, and I'm like, I want to hear you tell me your story.
Of course.
I can't wait to hear you do this.
Two.
But then he does it, and it's not his voice that gets me, because I know what his voice is because he's famous, but he just doesn't know how to read smoothly, his cadence, his delivery. Brian Headwelch, the guitarist from the band Korn.
So he shouldn't have read it.
Yeah, so guy's a performer. Amazing story. Like, he turned his back on fame and fortune because he had a drug addiction, and his book is called Save Me From Myself. He basically decides to leave that to get clean for his daughter and be a good father. And then he ends up coming back to the band a better person. and they work through all their stuff. So it's a very personal story for him. And you want to read his book and
Yeah.
hear it from him because it's his story. And then I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm getting this audiobook. I want to hear him tell the story. And I really enjoyed it, but he just doesn't do a great job of delivering the cadence and the.
He should have given it to Jeremy Bobb. This is the voice actor.
Gotcha.
So book 2 is Palace of Treason. So good. Book 2. Super excited about it. Yes. Renee says, keep your man card, Lucas, which I
Yeah.
thought. So yeah, sometimes you just want to give that job over to someone. I like what Wayne said about, I feel like I have a better connection with the book, not to take away from audiobooks. I use audiobooks on the move when not in a quiet place like home. So I totally understand that. Like when I'm on the treadmill reading a book, I've tried that. I have my Kindle, I'll take it, and I'm trying to read fast, read and walk fast. It's probably hilarious to watch. I like listening better. But when I really want to grasp the material of something, I'm either listening with a notebook, right, or a journal, and I'm taking notes, or I've got the physical book and I'm highlighting it. I'm really interested in highlighting it. Even an ebook doesn't do it for me. I got to have the physical book to really get the material. I had the Daily Stoic for a long time as an ebook, and then Kent Sanders bought me this beautiful copy of the Daily Stoic, and it lives on my desk.
Oh, wow.
And so every day I'm reading, the Daily Stoic, the daily, the daily message reminder for me to be my best self, and what that looks like today, according to Ryan Holiday, anyway, from the Stoics. So I don't think listening to it would do the same thing, although there's the Daily Stoic podcast, the Daily Stoic audiobook, the Daily Stoic email newsletter. But Wayne, I totally agree with you. Sometimes I try on a book in audio format to see if I like it. I think the cool thing, though, about ebook versus physical book, an audiobook versus physical book, is that when you have your AirPods in, nobody knows what you're doing. When you're looking at your phone, nobody knows what you're doing. Even a Kindle gives you away. It's like, oh, you're reading something. But I can be in a really boring meeting and be reading on my phone. And it looks like I might be doing something pertaining to the meeting. I'm not. I'm reading something.
What are you reading?
It depends. It depends on what I'm reading, right? It's like I always have my Kindle app, my iBooks app, and then I have a couple of other like book apps that are specific types of collections of books. There's Jen.
Yes. I just had to, you were talking about looking at your phone. I had to look at my phone to see who was on Facebook talking to us, because I can't see it on Restream.
Yeah, we can't see. Facebook doesn't.
I'm looking
Facebook
down and it's
you to be anonymous.
And it's Renee and Jen talking back and forth, and I was like, oh thank God.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I like it. So I like the fact that I can read listening, or I can read on my phone incognito, and I can do it anytime I want, which is really, really fun. So, all right, Wayne, are you checking out? Thank you. We'll see you next week for sure.
Yeah, he'll
next
be here.
Next week is the birthday celebration, so come with your party hat on.
Yeah, we need to coordinate a little bit of that.
I'm sure we'll do something. I'm sure there'll be something. Well, we're doing our video. You'll actually be here in Nashville. We should do it live on my porch, and then we'll go for trivia. Yeah. So
which will be, no doubt, the trivia questions will all be about producing audiobooks.
Of course they will.
So you've done your own recordings. You've done. Have you done the Amazon solicitation through ACX, where you can present your manuscript and ask people to compete for the opportunity?
Yep, that's how we found Rob Actis, and that's actually how I found the voiceover person for the Successful Single Mom series.
Excellent. Yeah. So for those that aren't familiar, if you have a book and you haven't the slightest clue how to find a narrator, you can go to ACX, which is Amazon's audiobook publishing site, and they have voice actors who will basically offer the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there are different ways to be reimbursed. There's different ways to hire. There's different time periods, all the things. But you can upload your manuscript and let them know what you're interested in doing and who you're interested in doing it with, and then you can receive offers or opportunities from potential narrators on the site, which is really cool. But one of the things that I did, obviously, I asked Honore when I was working with her, like, who do you use for your audiobook narrations? And that's how I found out about Rob Actis. But I also, when I listen to a really good audiobook, I go see who the narrator is. And for certain applications, certain narrators just are phenomenal, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like with fiction, it's such a different animal than nonfiction when it comes to narration because of characters.
Hmm.
And I had mentioned Joe Hill's book there. Well, he wrote 4 short novels and had different narrators for each of the novels,
Oh, cool.
right? Based on the fact that it's a totally different deal in each
Interesting.
story. One
Hmm.
of which was from a female's perspective. The lead character, the main character, was a woman, and she had a female narrator for that story. Some of the others had multiple points of view, and they actually had different voice narrators for some of the characters, and it was
Yes.
like it was wild. So there's a lot of creativity that can go into the narration, and it
Yes.
can
You
get
can have a
complex.
cast or you can have one person. So in the
Right.
back to Red Sparrow, Jeremy Bob is doing all of the different, like the different voices are different. Um, well, he's the voice, but he does different voices. So when he is the female character who's Russian, he's like, okay, knit. And so you can tell he's saying her saying his English name with a Russian accent. But then he says a lot of Russian with a really great accent, like
Nice.
with a Russian accent. He'll insert Russian terms and then translate it right away so
Hmm.
that you know what they were saying. So it's interesting. I think I might want to read the physical books at some point just to see all of that. I really enjoy being a foreign language buff. I really enjoy seeing that type of thing. But then there are others where they actually act it out, right? Where you're using
Right.
different characters. Someone who does multiple voices very well is Stephanie Bond for some of her serials. So
Oh.
as she has produced her daily serials, um, she'll have a voice actor that does different parts, or the voice actor takes on different intonation and pitch and tenor and
Hmm.
whatever so that you know who's speaking in the narration, which is really cool.
Right. No, that's great. I there's so much to that I think people uh, don't consider with fiction. So like, I'd be comfortable taking a shot. I'm not saying I do a great job, but I'm comfortable taking a shot at narrating my own nonfiction books because of the way they're written.
Right.
But I would never, in a million years, dream of narrating my novella I'm just putting together because it's the main character's a woman. So good luck there, Marino.
Come on, let's hear your lady voice, Marino.
Although there are plenty of people watching this that have known me my whole life that are going, "Oh, you'd pull it off."
You could totally do it. Yeah, you could totally do it. Yeah.
But there's part of that because the whole book is that single person's point of view.
Yeah.
Um, and then there's the multiple characters, and I'm just not a character actor guy. That's not my thing.
No.
I'm not even going to try, right? So one of the things I do like about the ACX platform, as far as like people that are kind of going this self-publishing route with their audiobooks, is that you can choose whether you want to do royalty shares. You can choose whether you want to do a set fee. And when I say you choose to have that conversation. It's still on the narrator to agree to those terms and
That's right.
things. So it's
But you
really
can
cool.
also do a 50-50 split, which is what Rob Actis did with Hal Elrod and then
Right.
sold a bajillion titles and he hit the lottery.
Yeah.
Because
Not
what
bad.
would have cost Hal $5,000 or $6,000 has ended up paying Rob and is still paying him. I think maybe not. I think that it's 7 years. You do a royalty share for 7 years.
There you go. I had to catch you. We got some Frappuccino. There we go. There's Frappuccino.
She's so mad when I hold her up. She looks like she's Garfield. She looks annoyed, but she's just
She,
purring away. She's just purring away. She's
she's
like,
so
I'm not.
happy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Jen, was that you saying you're going on vacation?
That's Renee.
That's Renee.
Renee goes on vacation tomorrow for like 2.5 weeks. And so she's taking, how cute is this? My best friend is taking my book.
It's
How
pretty
cute is this?
nice.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. I I I think that the deal with not the deal, but the ability to sign on with a company
Podium.
like Podium is, I mean, it just relieves so much of the
Oh my gosh.
responsibility that comes along with doing these things. And if you don't have any background in recording or any of that stuff,
Or
this could be a
desire.
or desire to do it or the time or any of it, like, I mean, it's a lot of work. So having someone like Podium there to support your projects and to publish your audiobook and handle all the fun that comes along with that
Yeah.
is a real thing. That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel so incredibly lucky, and they have just been a dream to work with. And I've tried to be a dream to work with too, right? Being responsive, which they have appreciated, that they'll
Right.
email me and ask me something. And I'm like, right away, yes, please, may I have this?
Excellent. So I guess one of the questions I have about working with a publisher like Podium is, what is that process like traditionally? What is that process like for querying, right? Or for like introducing your work to a publisher like that?
Yeah.
Is it similar to the the process for the print and ebooks?
Well, so no, I honestly don't know. I was connected to Podium, and they knew who I was. The people at
Right.
Podium knew who I was, and so they knew me and my books and that sort of thing, and just said, "Do you have any titles that you want to sell us? Basically, that you would want us to produce for you?" And I was like, yeah." So that was fairly easy. I have made a couple of introductions of people, because what they're looking for are people who can move audiobooks. Obviously, they're a business and they want to sell audiobooks.
Right.
So they're looking for someone who has a brand and has a following and has people who will buy it. And then also is writing on a topic that they feel like they can move, that they can sell to their own audience, and those sorts of things. But they, they're acquiring titles. That's what they do. Audiobooks are all they do, fiction and nonfiction. So more fiction than nonfiction. They're more well known for fiction than nonfiction, but they're moving into the nonfiction space at a pace,
Hmm.
at a fair clip. And so they're looking for titles to acquire. So if you have books that have done well that are not in audio, or you're willing to pull those down and republish them in audio, you can always message them and say,
Excellent.
"Hey, I would like to do this." As far as the process, I don't know what it's like for anybody else. I do know that my friends who are Podium authors would say, they're awesome, right? And I can attest to the fact that their team is on top of everything. They're very friendly. They sent me a little gift when I signed on,
Oh,
and
that's
a
cool.
welcome from the team. And they just keep me on top of everything. Like, we're almost ready. We're ready. Here are your assets. Here are images that you can use in the production. All the things like that are, just super easy. They send me the files so I can listen to them. It's just been really just a phenomenal experience.
That's super cool. I'm looking at their website right now so I can refer it to people. It's podiumaudio.com.
Yeah.
So definitely go check that out if you guys are interested. They have a ton
Oh yeah.
of
Oh
titles.
yeah.
This is
Yeah. They are not messing
fantastic.
around. They do not mess around with their production.
And I
It's
love that they showcase the titles, the authors, and the performers, the narrators.
Yeah.
It's not just about titles. That's really cool.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent. So okay, so one last point I had on my little radar to talk
Yeah.
about related to audiobooks is that if you aren't fortunate enough to work with a company like Podium, because they would be handling this for you, if you're going to self-publish an audiobook, or if you're going to work with someone else that may not be quite at the level that Podium is yet, you are going to have to eventually get a cover design, and you do this with your print and your ebooks. We're fortunate that we have a professional designer for our books, Dino,
We do.
And Dino produces an audiobook cover right alongside your paperback, hardcover, and ebook covers. And what a great asset that is, because if you, let's say you're not sure if you're actually going to produce your audiobook just yet, you can still acquire that cover art when you're developing and acquiring the cover art for the remainder of your books. So so
It's
that you have
just
it ready.
square image. It's just your book cover in square form.
Right.
And it's also something you can use for social media. So
Yep.
your image on your Facebook profile photo, your Instagram profile photo, your Instagram, or square
Mhm.
images. So um
Yeah, it's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
So,
It should come along with your cover suite. If you're not using our cover designer, you'll want to ask your cover designer to just go ahead and knock out a square image for you of your
right,
book cover so that you can use it as a social media asset. You can also use it as your audiobook cover art.
right.
So just go ahead and have that made right along with your ebook, your paperback, your hardcover, your black and white interior image, right? So
What?
you want
Right.
this, right?
Mhm. Well, one of the nice things about the audiobook file, like you mentioned, you can use it for social media because it's a square image, which is, great for like Instagram
Yep.
and obviously all the platforms. But the other thing that was nice about it that I didn't expect to be able to use it for was for my fiction series. I'm going to write a follow on with in my series for my fiction. The next book is going to go up on Vella before I put it out on
Hmm.
print.
Hmm.
And so the first thing Vella asks you to do is, give us the title info and everything. And I was able to use the picture art from my previous book
Oh, good.
then as a piece of art for, and having it in a good size makes it so that you can use more of that image. So super helpful.
Yeah.
Super helpful. Okay, we've got Sabina with us. Hey, Sabina, how are you?
Hey, Sabina.
Sabina, great advice on the cover. I did that, and I'm so grateful I have it. I use it for social. Yep, there you go. I am. I don't lose sleep over much when it comes to my book publication, right? Because like I know I'm putting out quality books. I'm doing it in a professional manner. I'm doing it with great people. But I lose sleep every day I don't have an audiobook out there because I know I'm giving up an opportunity to your earlier point. And so that's one of the things I'm rectifying this month for two of my titles is to try and get audiobooks provided for them because it's tremendous what that market's doing. We do have some mutual friends that have done this in the fiction space to notable profit.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I have a one friend who will go nameless, who makes six figures a year strictly on audiobook sales,
Yep.
and that's pretty significant.
Happy book anniversary, Sabina. 2 years already. Time
Wait,
flies when
what?
you're having fun. Yeah, it's been 2 years for her book.
Ah, look at that.
I know, crazy
Well,
good.
Sabina, put a link in your next comment. Put a link to the book in there so that
That's
people
right.
can go
That's
check it
right.
out. Happy
That's right.
birthday.
Tell us all about it. Yeah, yeah, I love it. I love
So,
it.
you guys have any other questions for us? If you have any questions for Honore, it doesn't necessarily have to be about audiobooks. We're open to answering any questions you guys may have about any of the topics. But yeah, this has been very helpful to me, and it actually provides me. And I use the example of knowing I'm going to bed missing an opportunity every day. I don't have an audiobook out there, but it's just that it's an opportunity. It's something I'm not doing that I could be doing.
Yep.
And audiobooks provide such a great way to leverage yet another stream of sales on the
Yep.
same material.
Yep.
So, what are you waiting for, Marino?
It's time, right? You
Yeah.
you run several businesses and have someone calling you for advice about things all the time and just blowing up your phone and you know, I don't know how you're productive with all that happening.
Yeah. Well, we're in similar shoes, aren't we?
Yeah. All good.
Yeah.
All good. It's just a list, right?
It's
It's a
just a
list.
list.
And as I cross something off the top, I'm putting stuff off on the bottom. So yeah.
That is the longest link in the world. I'm gonna have to copy that and make a shorter one. Let me see what I can do
Yeah,
here.
so just to give you all a hint that you could stop right after the 308, Lucas. See where it says the book
Oh, the
title and
reference.
then slash GP slash and then that number. That's the ASIN. So you can
Right.
take all of that and just that link will take you to the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I have no way to steal that link out of the comment and click on it. So,
You can go to the Amazon page and when
yep.
you're clicking on it, you can just go through to the 308 and then clip that and that will take you to exactly the same place. It's just a shorter link.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull a shorter link for it real quick.
Yeah.
So, Honore, while I'm doing that, do you have anything else you want to add to the conversation about audiobooks before we close her up?
I'll just talk about the benefits of launching everything at the same time and the benefits of not
Yeah.
launching everything at the same time. So if
Right.
you are fortunate to have your ebook, paperback, hardcover, and audiobook all ready to go to launch at the same time, that's wonderful. If you are not, then you can just let people know, like I am with the next, with the audio of Write Your First Nonfiction Book, that it's coming. And the people that have been waiting for it in audio, you can let them know in your newsletter and on social media and those sorts of things. There's really no wrong way to do it other than just to not do it at all. If you're wanting to do an audiobook, put it in the queue and just work toward getting it finished as soon as you possibly can. You can also release your audiobook a chapter at a time as a podcast. And so Stephanie Bond, who I mentioned before, did Coma Girl as a free audio podcast, or as a, obviously podcast is audio, as a free podcast, a produced podcast, which is really cool. And then she did Temp Girl the same way. And it's a daily podcast. So you listen to it every day or you can binge it once it's already out. People are getting to know you and you put your audiobook out as a podcast, one chapter at a time. That's another way for people to discover you and your work.
Was she
So
keeping the episodes up for longer than a day, or do they go up and come down in one day?
they're all still up there. You can go listen to them. It's a fantastic, so fun,
Wow.
super fun. Yeah.
Wow.
So
And she knows what she's doing. She's done
yeah,
pretty good with it.
yeah, she's all right. We don't need to do a GoFundMe for Stephanie for sure anytime soon. So
She's doing all right.
yeah, so I just recommend that you do it. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, and just put it in the queue
There you go.
and then have some fun with putting it up with some images on social media, the audio in the background, just things like that. All different sorts of things you can do. But thanks for tuning in, everybody, Renee and Jen and Sabina and Wayne, who left already. And I don't know if I'm forgetting anyone or missing anyone, but if you were here and we didn't say hello or you didn't say hello, glad you're here. Thanks for popping in.
There you
And
go.
we'll look forward to seeing you next time.
That's right, guys. Be safe. Let us know if there's anything you want us to cover in one of these sessions in the future, if you haven't seen what you're looking for. And, we are just grateful to have you guys with us. So don't forget to like and subscribe. We broadcast these weekly on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So you should definitely run over to LinkedIn and subscribe, or sorry, over to YouTube and subscribe if you're not following us on LinkedIn or in our Facebook group, which is the Empire Builders Masterclass. So, all right, guys, it's great to see you again, Miss Honore. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Glad you're feeling better.
Thank you. Me too. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lucas. Thanks,
And
everybody.
we'll see you next week.
Okay.